Share Shootout brought to you by Lion of Africa Insurance, insuring South Africa's future.
There's a lot to play for this evening. Before the break, Warren and Sasha gave us two of their share picks. The very brave Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact chose Tigerbrands, the nearly 60 billion rand food manufacturer that's operating in an environment where food inflation threatens to rise. That is why Warren shot it down. Not too many questions asked on that front. Holdsport, we're all athletic on this show, so we understand the benefits of earning. Don't start that, Sasha Naryshkine. No guffawying, you get gonged out for that. But Holdsport is in a unique position. It's mass market, wholesale sporting equipment sales. Families like to hang out there on weekends, and as my children get older, I think I will understand the Holdsport benefit more than ever. But for the time being, however, Warren looks at Holdsport and says it doesn't have the necessary unique proposition that is going to withstand any kind of assault from a mass mart, which is bound at some point to launch a very full frontal attack, Walmart style, on Holdsport. So Holdsport got shut down as well, which takes us to Warren and Warren's picks this evening. And Warren has gone for Octodec. It's a property play. It's in the sort of urban, the rougher side of the urban space, where it goes in and refreshes tired buildings, and it's got a big retail component to it. Sasha reluctantly, I think, picked this one, mostly because we believe that interest rates will stay flat for the year and that this will continue to be a nice high-yielding investment. So on that basis, Octodec got the thumbs up from Sasha, because he didn't want to have to pick Warren's number 3, I tell you that much. Then MMI Holdings, although we see insurance companies as being fairly dull, MMI Holdings is an interesting pick, and it is one that sort of mirrors what's going on in the underlying market. Of course, it sits on a huge amount of capital, which it invests on behalf of its policyholders and its investors. But is that enough to entice Sasha? No, it isn't. Sasha would rather see an index product if you're going to do that, rather than run the risk of being exposed to an insurance company. So, to pick the winner, I need some very compelling arguments. And in this part of the program, Warren Jeffrey, you go first with your final pick of Invicta. Why?
Well, I think Invicta has a lot going for it. The price is high, but the price is what you pay, value is what you get. Now, Invicta, I like what management's doing. They've gone on an acquisition trail. They're looking to expand into emerging markets. Like I said earlier, that's what I believe are the drivers in our market now. Same as you're talking, the expansion into Africa, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Their recent purchases have given them an avenue into China and a lot of the emerging market worlds. And they've also purchased distribution rights for Hyundai heavy machinery into Africa. And that, combined with Invicta's stellar performance and great in terms of dividend yield and increases in dividends to date.
A dividend yield of under 3%. I wouldn't call it great, but okay, but you're 30 seconds.
In relation.
You're 30 seconds around. I love this game where I can have the final word. Sasha, Invicta, Africa story, Barlow World. Come on, why would you go for Invicta?
My wife drives a Honda, and in fact, one of my first cars was a Honda. So
some of your best friends drive Hondas.
So yes. I don't have friends, really.
Yes. Oh, this is true. But because you drive a Hyundai. No, but this is Hyundai heavy equipment. This isn't the agency for the motor cars. So unless your wife is driving a bulldozer around to push you around, I doubt very much that it's this particular market.
Well, she does drive it like a bulldozer.
We're going to miss you, Sasha. We're going to miss you.
In all fairness, I think the problem here is also a weakening currency and a volatile currency that matters, because...
Which weakening currency? You're talking about the rand? You're talking about the currencies on the African continent which are also volatile?
I think more the rand, because there are negative perceptions towards South Africa, and I see a continuance of that until we see some sort of economic clarity in South Africa. So I think the currency does play a pretty big risk here, but there are lots of companies that have to deal with those issues. I also, and this is again looking forward, Bruce, the Chinese and the Indian manufacturers in this sort of space can always compete better with us on price. Yeah. And in our environment, an African environment, people are going to be swayed on price and price alone, because the quality sort of matters.
Okay, so the quality doesn't matter enough in this on the African continent outside South Africa.
Granted, they sell quality products, but this is where I think the Indian and the Chinese manufacturers will grab a bigger share of the African market.
In 5 or 10 years' time.
Probably even sooner than that.
Okay, so do you accept it or do you shoot it down?
Well, I have to shoot it down.
You have to shoot it down?
I have to.
Okay, because you're playing strategically, don't take it personally, you understand. All right, final pick for this evening. Sasha Naryshkine, your most courageous so far. Famous Brands, the share that is perpetually expensive and never offers decent value, and that's why nobody ever buys it.
Well, actually, the reason why nobody ever buys it is because the tight shareholders, so we're talking management, Coronation, and Hunts Enderley, own nearly 73% of the business. So whenever those people sell, everyone goes, oh, but in actual fact, they own nearly 3 out of every 4 shares listed. Now, you're right, it trades on a big multiple, but expensive for a reason, because it's quality. So let me just give you these growth rates. So they've got 155 stores outside of our borders, so north of the Limpopo. And that turnover is increasing by 33.3%. And now let me give you an interesting factoid that Kevin Hedwick once told me in these passages here. He said for every unit of GDP growth added, it basically adds doubling to convenience dining. So whereas you and I might not think of this as convenience dining, there are lines outside of the store in KFC when it opens in Nairobi. There are lines, there are queues.
Yes, Famous Brands doesn't own KFC.
I'm just saying. I know they don't own KFC.
And that's one of the greatest weaknesses.
One of the global...
One of the greatest weaknesses of Famous Brands is that it doesn't own a KFC equivalent. If it had that in its portfolio, I'd be willing to pay 27 times earnings. It doesn't.
So
why must I pay 27 times?
Germundo's, I mean, that's a recent one. I mean, I personally haven't eaten there as of yet. So you're right, there is a
if you can find a Germundo's, then you can go and eat that. But you can't find
there's one at the Douglasdale Shopping Centre.
That's in
you
your
hang out in a Lani neck of the woods.
Okay, Warren, shoot it down. Come on.
I'm not going to.
You're not going to?
I'm glad I took a gamble, and Famous Brands is actually one I hold in my own portfolio now.
But would you buy it at 27 times earnings? At $82 a share, would you add to your portfolio?
I would.
That's such a disappointing way to end the show this evening. So Sasha Naryshkine gets accepted. It's a genuine acceptance. It's not one of those grudging acceptances that comes through on Famous Brands. So you don't shoot it down, you accept it.
I accept it, and the reason why is, to me, Famous Brands is diversifying. They're moving away from simple convenience. I think that is a massive growth area for them, but they're getting efficient in terms of their costings.
We have to go. They bought a dairy. Once you go into farming, I get nervous. But hey, that's just me. Okay, so Sasha Naryshkine, a quick wrap-up. Tigerbrands, Holdsport and Famous Brands. His first 2 picks, Tiger and Holdsport, was shot down, but Warren was very pleased that he'd waited and he'd taken a bet on Famous Brands. And this is one of the most spectacular growth stories on the JSE in the last 10 years. Sasha Naryshkine is convinced that growth story will continue, courtesy of growth north of its home borders in South Africa. Warren Jeffrey from FSP Invest, Octodec, MMI Holdings and Invicta. MMI and Invicta shot down, and Octodec was accepted by Sasha Naryshkine. I've got to now make the really tough call as to who should stay and who should go. Sasha Naryshkine is experienced at being booted out. He knows what it's like to be booted into obscurity. However, today, I listened to the arguments being made. I like the long-term Africa focus, the long queues that Sasha likes. I'm looking at the long-term nature of Sasha's portfolio of Tigerbrands, Holdsport and Famous Brands, and I'm giving it preference over Octodec, MMI and Invicta. So I'm afraid for you, Warren Jeffrey from FSP Invest, you're out. Which means, Sasha Naryshkine, for the first time in history, you actually survived this game. You get to be invited back with body and mind intact. Congratulations to you. You won Share Shootout. You can go tell your friends and family. That's all we have time for this week. I'll be back next time on CNBC Africa. Remember to catch me on Twitter. Also, give me your Share Shootout suggestions and your thoughts at Bruce Business. That's my Twitter handle. Catch us again next time, and we continue to pick out our winner and shoot down without mercy the rest. Good night.